Good morning. I declare today's meeting open and I welcome everyone joining us in the gallery this morning and also those on the live stream. Would everyone please stand now as I ask Councillor Natoli to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The Sunshine Coast Council acknowledges the Kabi peoples and the Jinnabara peoples whose land and waters we all now share. The traditional owners' unique values and ancient and enduring cultures deepen and enrich the life of our communities. The Sunshine Coast has been a place of celebration, abundance, connection and kinship for thousands of years, and we commit to working in partnership with the traditional owners to continue their practices and support self-determination through economic and community development. Truth-telling is a significant part of our journey, and legacy issues resulting from colonisation are still experienced by traditional owners and First Nations people. We are committed to better understanding the collective history of the Sunshine Coast traditional owners and the experiences of First Nations people. We recognise our shared history and will continue to work in partnership to provide a foundation for building a shared future with the Kabi people and the Jinnabara people. We pay our respects to the traditional owners of the Sunshine Coast and to their elders past and present, and acknowledge the important role First Nations people continue to play within the Sunshine Coast community. Together, we are all stronger.
Thank you, Councillor. Please remain standing as I invite Pastor Hayden Walsh from Chancellor Church to provide a blessing this morning. Thank you, Pastor.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here this morning. My name is Hayden. I'm pastor from Chancellor Church in Sippy Downs. We meet in the school hall there, and we have done so for many years, and it's a great honour and privilege to be able to pray this morning for you all. Please join with me in prayer if able. God, the creator of everything, the creator of the universe, this planet we call Earth, the one who sets boundaries for countries and states and regions, who has appointed this council in their various responsibilities and callings to care for this land, its people, its economy, and to do so with justice and mercy. We come before you, Father, this morning to pray for mercy and blessing. For mercy on our council, as their role is so big. It requires time and energy, integrity and health. It requires time away from family, a cost to personal desires. It's a role that I'm sure at times for these women and men that seems too much. So we pray for mercy, that they may find rest, they may find peace and the energy to fulfill their calling. And we pray for blessing, Father, that you would bless this council with wisdom and character to fulfill their calling, that you would gift them with discernment to balance options and reports, you'd give them clarity of mind and thoughtfulness. We pray you would bless this council this day, and that you would bless our region as well. Help our region to thrive and flourish, and in that pursuit, help us not to forget those who are the very least among us. We ask you, Lord, all these things through Jesus' name, the one you sent to live and die and rise again so that we could find life and forgiveness. Amen. Thank you.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor. Please be seated. I note that all councillors are in attendance here this morning, and Councillor Hungerford, I believe you have a leave of absence you wish to raise.
Madam Mayor, I'm bringing this forward under caution. I planned my holidays, Julie and I planned our holidays between the meeting schedules, and now the budget meeting has been moved. I'll be attempting to attend that meeting electronically online. Hopefully that works. Then I was coming back for the 24th of July meeting, but just in case there's any delays in me getting back from that holiday. So I'll move the council approve leave of absence for Councillor Hungerford for the special meeting budget adoption on Monday the 7th of July 2025 and the ordinary meeting 24th of July 2025. Should I have technology or travel issues prohibiting my attendance? I do this out of caution. I do intend to attend those meetings, just in case.
Thank you, Councillor Hungerford. Councillor Dixon is the seconder. I will put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? And the motion is carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors. We'll move on now to item 4. And can I please have someone move receipt and confirmation of the minutes of the ordinary meeting held on May 21, 2025? Councillor Natoli moved, seconded. Councillor Burns. All those in favour? And the motion is carried unanimously. There is no mayoral minute today, so moving on to item 6. Councillors, I remind you of the requirements of the Local Government Act of 2009, which sets out how councillors' conflicts of interest are managed in local government matters. These requirements apply to how we deal with such matters at this meeting. Should you have a conflict of interest in relation to an agenda item, please raise it at the commencement of that item. We move now to item 7, and this is always a joyful item. And Councillor Broderick, I believe you have a few awards to acknowledge today.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, through you. Get yourselves comfortable because we've got lots of awards to give out today, which is really exciting. So today I have the honour of presenting a few awards. Firstly, the LGMA Awards, which are the Local Government Managers of Australia Awards for Excellence, which recognises outstanding achievement in Queensland local government. Our Diversity and Inclusion project was crowned winner of the Excellence in Workplace Wellbeing category. This recognition is a testament to the dedication, passion and vision of various teams involved across all elements of this initiative, including people and culture, community development and diversity and inclusion advisory group, and our diversity and inclusion networks, partners and allies. Thank you for leading the way in creating a more inclusive workplace where everyone can feel valued and safe. And we have a few of our representatives here today. We've got Steve Eltis, Lydia Kilkelly-Waters, Jane Willis, Rebecca Leonard and Camilla Lagiro. Are you all here? Yes? 3 of you are here? Yeah, mostly here. So let's give them a round of applause for an excellent job. Well done. Sure.
So, Councillor Broderick, you move a motion for receipt of the award?
Yes, please, Madam Mayor.
And a seconder, Councillor Suarez. All those in favour? And that is carried unanimously.
Excellent. We'll keep going.
Keep going.
All right. I'd also like to give a special shout out to Australasian Management Challenge team who placed 3rd in a highly competitive field in Queensland competition, scoring 93.5 out of 100, an outstanding achievement that showcases our growing leadership, talent and teamwork in action. Our team, the lighting lineup, included Jordan Coluccio, Amy McCarthy, Tiffany Bauer, Nicole Arthur and Elise Sondergeld. Congratulations.
Thank you. And Councillor Broderick, you'd like to move motion to receive that award?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor.
Seconder, Councillor Natoli. Put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? And the motion is carried unanimously. Thank you. Continuing on.
Yes, we've still got more. So that's not all with these guys. We had 2 outstanding projects in that same named as finalists, which was the Invasive Weeds Project, Excellence in Innovation finalist for its innovative and sustainable approach to environmental management. And we also had in the finals the Enabling Trustworthy Use of AI Together, Excellence in Teamwork finalist for showcasing collaboration and teamwork across many areas of council in building trustworthy and innovative AI policy and use. And let's not forget, this is a good one, there's a lot today. We also had nominated projects for Testing Tech in Paradise, Excellence in Innovation nominee for its forward-thinking use of technology, which has sparked strong interest and engagement right across the industry, and our SCC app, Excellence in Collaboration nominee for its successful collaborative approach across council teams, delivering a revolutionary solution that enhances how community accesses information and stays connected. So hopefully you've all downloaded the app by now and use it regularly. Each of these initiatives reflects the creativity, collaboration and commitment to excellence that drive everything we do across our Sunny Coast Council. To everyone who are involved, whether you were nominated, finalist or winner, thank you and congratulations. Your work contributes to the success of our organisation and the communities we serve. On another note, you still with me? We've still got more. Council's Smart City Framework and Implementation Plan won top honours in the program category of the inaugural 2025 Digital Built Australia Awards in April. Yay! The framework has been driving an evidence-based approach, as these guys come down, to smart infrastructure over the past 10 years by identifying the elements necessary to achieve a successful and integrated program of digital solutions and services. New infrastructure specs are now routinely included in council capital works programs. The framework focuses on problem solving, evidence-based decision-making, an integrated approach and aggregated procurement to achieve high-value outcomes for council and the region. Our mobile data trailer also received a commendation in the project category for enabling cost-effective, privacy-conscious, human movement data to inform our planning and service delivery, all part of making us more efficient. So thank you, team. It's used for short-term deployments to produce counting and movement of people and vehicles, most recently for the Mooloolaba Triathlon and the Horizon Festival. So these Digital Built Australia Awards showcase the best from government and industry who reflect outstanding leadership, innovation and the impact that digital transformation and data maturity can have on our precincts, infrastructure and cities. Congratulations to Michael Weiratt, Toby Cluett, Katie Steele and Angus Warfield, and we've got some more with us. Hey,
And Ben Vandenberg. Get in a little bit closer, guys. At least I got 2 shares. That's right. Thank you. Congratulations. Okay, Councillor Broderick, you'd like to move the motion on that one?
Certainly, thank you, Madam
To
Mayor.
receive this award, and a seconder is Councillor Johnston. Thank you. Putting the motion to the vote. All those in favour? And that is carried unanimously. Thank you all. Thank you, Councillor Broderick, for bringing all of those.
That's my absolute pleasure.
Okay, moving now to item 8.1, and we welcome Mr Alderson to present the first item on the agenda. Thank you. And before you begin, I, Councillor Rosanna Natoli, notify that I have a declarable conflict of interest in item 8.1, development permit for material change of use of premises to establish multiple dwelling units, 116 units at Sunrise Drive, Maroochydore, to be considered at the ordinary meeting today due to the fact that a submitter to the item being discussed, Mr Doug Fry, participated in my election campaign. I attended a community meeting in relation to a development at Sunshine Cove in my capacity as a mayoral candidate. Mr. Fry facilitated that meeting. Mr. Fry assisted me during my mayoral campaign by handing out how to vote cards over a number of days. In addition, Councillor Joe Natoli, who is a related party of mine, was also assisted by Mr. Fry during his election campaign. I will exclude myself from the meeting while it is being discussed and the vote is taken. Thank you, Councillor Suarez. To the chair. Just waiting for you to get here.
Councillor Bunnack.
Good morning through you, Madam Deputy Mayor. Councillors, under section 150 EL subsection 3B of the Local Government Act 2009, I notify that I have a prescribed conflict of interest in the development application reference number MCU 22-0111 in relation to an impact assessable development proposed at lot 904 Sunrise Drive, Maroochydore. I originally notified councillors of this prescribed conflict of interest at the ordinary meeting held on the 24th of April 2024. The prescribed conflict of interest arises due to the fact that on the 19th of February 2024, I made a written submission to council objecting to this development application before the application had been decided. These circumstances provide the basis for a prescribed conflict of interest as defined in section 150 EI subsection C2 of the Act. In accordance with section 150 EK of the Local Government Act 2009, I'll exclude myself from any meeting, discussion or communication in relation to making a decision on this matter and have to date. I'll leave the room.
Thank you, Councillor Bunnack. Councillor Natoli.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Mayor. I, Councillor Joe Natoli, notified that I have a declarable conflict of interest in item 8.1 development permit for material change of use of premises to establish multiple dwelling units at 116 units at Sunrise Drive, Maroochydore, to be considered at the ordinary meeting on Thursday, the 19th of June 2025. Councillor Rosanna Natoli, a related party of mine, was assisted in her campaign by Mr. Fry and attended a community meeting in relation to a development at Sunshine Cove in her capacity as mayoral candidate, which Mr. Fry facilitated. Mr. Fry may have handed out my how to vote cards while assisting the campaign of Councillor Rosanna Natoli. I have no ongoing relationship with Mr. Fry, and I will withdraw myself from this meeting.
Thank you, Councillor Natoli. Yep. Just wait. No, I'll wait till it leaves. Thank you. I invite Mr. Alderson to make his presentation.
Thank you. Good morning, councillors and Mr. CEO. I do have some of the assessment team here. We've got Thomas Brock, the Urban Design Specialist, and Marcus Newbury, Project Director, to help with any questions. Today I'm presenting an application for multiple dwelling units at Sunrise Drive and Maroochydore. The application is before council due to the level of community interest. Site context. The site on the image on the left shows the site in context of surrounding landmarks. The site is approximately 1.2 kilometres southwest of City Hall and 1 kilometre southwest of Sunshine Plaza. Sunshine Cove Lake is to the south of the site. The site is bounded on all sides by road reserve. To the south is Sunshine Cove Way. To the north is Somerton Drive, and to the east is Amity Avenue. Surrounding development generally consists of small lot row housing. Directly to the north of the site is vacant land, but approved for further small lot row housing. It's noted this land is currently owned by the applicant. The site is located within the Wises Farm preliminary approval, and Maroochy Plan 2000 is the applicable planning instrument for the purpose of assessment. The preliminary approval took effect in October 2004 and continues to be the applicable planning instrument for the site, as shown on the plan above. Under the preliminary approval, the site is located within Precinct 6, Wises Farm Central, medium to high density residential. In this precinct, medium and high density residential development is encouraged. The development includes a variety of 1, 2, 3 and 4 bedroom units. The design involves a large central open atrium with landscaped raised planters and seating. A central communal outdoor recreation area is proposed, which includes pools and barbecue areas. A total landscaped area of 42% of the site is proposed. Parking, the proposal includes a total of 184 car parking spaces, comprising of 153 resident spaces and 31 visitor spaces within a semi-basement car park. Vehicular access would be via a new driveway from Somerton Drive. The parking layout has accommodated the necessary service vehicles, including waste collection vehicles. Each unit would have a balcony which addresses one of the street frontages, and the proposal is 4 stories and within the 15-metre height limit. Public notification. The application was publicly notified for 15 days between the 29th of January and the 19th of February 2024 in accordance with the requirements of the Planning Act. A total of 100 submissions were received, of which 85 were determined to be properly made. Of the 85 submissions, 78 were against the proposal, 3 were for the proposal and 4 were neutral. The key issues raised in the submissions were regarding parking and traffic, architectural design, building height and built form. In addition, impacts on amenity were raised, such as overshadowing, noise and loss of views. The submissions map shows the location of each submitter in proximity to the site, with the red dots being those opposed, the green in support and the yellow neutral. Key assessment considerations. It's noted in response to the submissions, the applicant made a change to the development application, making a number of design changes. This included the height of the proposal by lowering the development by 1.5 metres to form a semi-basement, such that the height is 4 stories and 15 metres is compliant with the height requirements of the Wises Farm preliminary approval. In addition, the applicant amended the design to reduce the plot ratio and the density and increase the setbacks to frontages. While the proposal does not comply with the preferred plot ratio and dwelling unit factor for the site or density, the development has demonstrated compliance with the performance outcome by being consistent with the desired character for the precinct, which is discussed in further slides. Building design and setbacks. Council's urban design specialist has assessed the proposal and advised that the setbacks are suitable for each road frontage. The development has been placed into Council's 3D model and reviewed to ensure the development is appropriate based on its location and in the context of the surrounding area. The proposed setbacks allow for greater than typical landscape buffers to the majority of the road frontages, and the building layout has maximised balconies addressing each of the frontages. It's considered the layout, scale, form and character of the proposed development will be in keeping with the character and locality and will contribute to making the streets more attractive and interesting and safe. External building finishes and colours are identified, which provide contrasting colour schemes to assist in breaking up and distinguishing different parts of the built form. The design provides an appropriate response to weather protection and Sunshine Coast design principles. This can be seen in the roof form and eaves, the use of window hoods, the arrangements of units on a single loaded corridor to maximise ventilation and access to daylight. Parking. So there is 184 car parking spaces proposed. Although there is a minor shortfall of 4 spaces, the development has been conditioned to provide 10 additional on-street spaces along the Somerton Drive frontage. It's also noted the proposal complies with the parking rates under the current Sunshine Coast planning scheme, which only requires 182 spaces. The proposed development complies with the requirements of the applicable planning scheme and the Wisers Farm preliminary approval, and is recommended the application be approved subject to conditions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Alderson. Can I have a Councillor Dixon move the motion, a seconder, Councillor Landsberg. Councillor Dixon, would you like to speak to the motion?
Through you, Madam Deputy Mayor, I'd like to ask some questions if I can. Through you to the officers. What would need to be changed in regards to this current proposal to make it code accessible? So it's here because it's impact, it's got the submissions from the community. What things would need to be changed to make it compliant with the town plan?
Through the chair, the triggers for impact assessment are the density and the plot ratio, or the site cover. So the proposal is over those numerical figures. So it would have to be reduced in numbers of units and the site cover of the building. So that would be the trigger.
So through the chair, in regards to the height, my understanding is that the height limit for the precinct actually is the 15 metres. Is that correct?
Through the chair, that's correct, yes.
Yep. In regards to the submissions that were put in, and this one might be a little bit difficult to answer, there's been many iterations of the plan, from pre-lodgement amendments and further amendments in regards to what's put here before us today. My question is, when those submissions were put in through the public advertisement period, were those submissions put to council when the proposal was well over height?
Through the chair, yeah, that's correct. So when the development was publicly notified, the proposal was over the height limit, and so that was another trigger for the impact assessment level. It was so it was notified at a height of I think it was 16 metres or so. So that changed. Subsequent to the public notification process, the applicant, in response to submissions, made a formal change to the application and reduced the height to bring the basement down. So we're now talking about a semi-basement, which significantly reduces the height.
Would you say in your view that, through the chair, would you say in your view that many of the submissions were concerned about the height of the building?
Through the chair, that was one of the major issues raised with the proposed development, along with bulk and scale and setbacks. But the proposal was amended with regards to setbacks. Providing additional breaks in the building were also changed. Additional parking was provided on the site also.
Okay. I'm not sure, through the chair, if you'll be able to answer this one. There's been rumours that the site, the actual site we're talking about here today, the proposal site, was approved for or was to be a retirement or an aged care facility. Was there ever any approvals or suggestions from the developer that this site would be a retirement village or aged care facility? I've been unable to find that.
Through the chair, there is a historical approval for further small lot row housing, but there's been no indication for retirement village on this site. I understand there's a vacant site to the north of this one, which there has been discussions for retirement village, but not on this site to the south.
Okay. Through the chair, if I could speak, I may have some more questions later. I've been through this report a few times now. We've had the presentation last week. Councillor Hungerford and I have been around for a long time, and as far back as I can remember, this was the intent for the development area. And in fact, I'll read something. I did a bit of old research and dragged out some very old documents, and it says here that for the development in the Wisers Farm area, it's to be medium density residential development, and this is to be encouraged in the area. In the precinct, people are to be able to walk, ride around the lakes and have great or good adjoining pedestrian and cycle links to commercial precincts within the Wisers Farm area. This should be encouraged by incorporating subdivision layouts that design and maximise the utilisation of these facilities. So if I think about where we are today, so we're in Maroochydore in the city centre, this is the city centre. I know people that actually walk to work here. They live in areas that are very close to the development site. They walk to work and actually enjoy it. Don't need to drive the car, save on the fuel and rego, and don't add to the traffic pressures, and they decide to walk. When I think about having development sited close to where people are wanting to work, this is exactly where you want to be. People tell me more and more all the time they don't want greenfield development. They don't want added traffic pressures on the Sunshine Motorway out around Sippy Downs and Caloundra South. They don't want more traffic pressures. So the way to do that is to not go out but go up. And when we talk about going up, you're a stone's throw from the city centre. It's 4 stories. In Sippy Downs, we're doing 25-metre, 6-storey buildings at Chancellor Park and Sippy Downs. It's certainly appropriate to be doing 4 stories and 15 metres right on your city. This is exactly where we want people to be, and in fact, that's what the planning has said since 2004. We're talking over 20 years now, and this has been envisaged for the site. This is no surprise. Wisest Farm was to be mixed density, mixed use. That's exactly what this proposal would do. If you continue to deliver exactly what's there, you're not maximising the site. And if I look at some of the figures in the report, we're starting to see some single-person dwellings, some single-bedroom. You may see your 2 and 3 and 4. That's the mix we need. In fact, that's exactly what we need in the city centre. I think the location is absolutely perfect, given that we are so close to the city centre of Maroochydore. If you look through the report, sure, there are elements that are outside of the town plan. We know that. We know that those things have been conditioned. And if I read through the report now, there's over 67 individual conditions that relate to conditioning this development to make it the absolute best it can be. And we've been through the designs. I think the way that it's broken up, the colour changes, the aesthetics, it's actually quite a nice building. I would like to live there. I think it looks fantastic. Getting the developer to deliver that is now on council to ensure its delivery, but I think it's a very high quality project. Usually when you see contentious developments, you see the submissions to council, but you also get the follow-up emails. Councillors get the follow-up emails on everything. You get that before the OM, the big final push to convince councillors to do something or not to do something. And I always look for that because that helps me to make my decision. I don't just rely on the report. I don't just rely on the public submission. I've had one email to my inbox about this proposed development, just one, nothing else. I've seen the submissions, but I've had one email on it. To me, that tells me there's not a lot of high community interest in this proposal. In fact, as portfolio holders, Councillor Winston and I usually receive the most when it comes to planning matters. We hear about it all the time. If this development is approved, the developer has 6 years to enact their development approval. They may be able to extend that in the future, but given the current market, given the shortage of rentals, the shortage of properties, which we know are really good reasons to be approving development close to the city centre, we know that this is going to get built. We know that the market is there, and we know that people need homes. In fact, I had a friend recently who is a single mum now, and she struggled to find a place to live. Not only because it was difficult to get somewhere, but because she just can't afford some of the rents that people are paying, particularly in households around Palmview, $800 and $900 a week for a rental. So we definitely need to diversify the market and provide different product for people who are doing it tough. I cannot find any reasons to not support this report today. I think the staff have done a fantastic job. In fact, when the developer lodged this, it was way over the town plan in many instances, but the staff have negotiated with the developer and the applicant, and I think you've delivered a fantastic outcome for what I think will be a brilliant product for Maroochydore. So I will be supporting this, and I cannot find any reasons to vote against it.
Thank you, Councillor Dixon. Councillor Landsberg.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, and through you. Just a couple of questions, if I may, first of all. In regards to short-term, long-term accommodation, in regards to a body corporate management style, I believe that would need to come to council for approval as per for that type of use. Would that be correct?
Through the chair, typically under the current planning scheme, short-term accommodation would trigger a new application, but this is being based under Maroochydore plan. It didn't make a distinction between short-term accommodation and long-term accommodation. So there is no restriction on, there's no ability to restrict short-term, long-term uses as part of this approval.
Okay, thank you. And in the report, it states future bus stops exist either side of Sunshine Cove Way and south of the subject site, with TransLink to determine when these become operational. Can you just give an update on the public transport service in this area, please?
Through the chair. So the bus stops have been provided. There is a bus route identified through the master plan, but TransLink has yet to commit to any formal bus route. I understand there has been some preliminary discussions around looping it through Sunshine Cove, along Sunshine Cove Way, back around to the boulevard, but that has not been formalised to date.
Thank you. And given that the flood modelling data that we use to determine the 1% annual exceedance probability and the certification 21/19511 has expired during the assessment period, and there's been no updates to the Maroochydore River flood modelling, how accurate would those assessments be to date?
Through the chair. So our engineers have reviewed the latest modelling that's been undertaken for the Cornwall Creek catchment of the area, and have applied a level of 3.24, which is really for the bund of the car park to ensure that the car park is flood immune. They're confident that that's an acceptable level of risk and complies with our flood management hazard overlay code requirements and will achieve flood immunity into the long term.
Thank you, and I'll just speak to it, Chair. Like myself, I'd just like to obviously touch on Councillor Dixon's comments. I believe the applicant has been very adaptable in this application and working with council and working with the actual outcomes expected for this site. The opportunity for more high density, medium to high density within our Maroochydore City Centre, the opportunity for people to scale down and move into more, accommodations within a walking catchment. That's what the actual vision of this Maroochydore City Centre was, to provide those opportunities for our growing community. It's obviously reduced the height. It's become, in regards to the amount of car parking available on site as well. I know there's 4 car parking spaces, which is sort of over the limit, but I don't think anything that we deliver on the coast in this day and age now it'll be a struggle to meet some of those parking ratios if we want to continue to deliver density within our walk-up catchment of especially our CBDs. I'm supportive of this recommendation today, and I look forward to obviously fellow support as well from my councillors. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Landsberg. Councillor Hungerford.
For you, Madam Chair. I'll probably explain this for the community out there, because when I do this, I look at the submitters and the things that they take into account. Now, when you do the Diploma of Local Government, one of the sections in that, it's available to all councillors to do, and I highly recommend it. They put you as a planner assessing an application. In that, you have to assess the Planning Act 2016 and amendments, the Planning Regulation 2017 and amendments, and the town plan. If there isn't a consistency between council's town plan and the planning regulations from the state, the Planning 16 and the building regulation take precedence. This is the backdrop of assessing, and this is what the planners do, and they've done that in this case. So when we come to this one here, it's important to note it's located within the Wisers Farm preliminary approval. That's a court approval for a development to happen there. And the Maroochydore Plan 2000, so this is being assessed against our superseded town plan, Maroochydore Plan 2000, so the provisions of that apply. The local area provisions are superseded by the Wisers Farm preliminary approval that overrides the planning scheme. The subject site is located within Precinct 6, Wisers Farm Central Medium, High Density Residential, Wisers Farm Mixed Housing. In this precinct, medium density residential development is encouraged. This is to give you the setting. So then I go for, okay, if I'm going to look at the submitters there, what things can I use as a refusal on this one here. And they've got to be substantive planning grounds, because the reasons of refusal are the only ones the court will take into account, and they set that against the planning documents. So I'll look for what I've got here to use. Now, remember, in the planning scheme, you've got acceptable outcomes and performance outcomes. An acceptable outcome is nice to achieve if it can, but it's not enforceable. Only a performance outcome is enforceable, but can be conditioned to comply. So when we look at building height, and a lot of submitters there were concerned with the density and building height, the preliminary approval document identifies a maximum building height for the subject site of 4 stories, but not more than 15 metres above natural ground level. The proposed development complies with this requirement, as the building height was reduced in response to submissions to be within the 4-storey, 15-metre maximum height limit from ground level. Tick, that one's taken away from me. So plot ratio and density, remembering this is an acceptable outcome. Nice to achieve if you can, but not enforceable. The maximum building dwelling factor of 250 square metres per dwelling and a minimum of 100 metres per dwelling, which equates to 81.78 equivalent dwelling units. The development proposes 122.15 equivalent dwelling units. With respect to the above, the development does not comply with the preferred plot ratio and preferred dwelling unit factor acceptable measures of the Wises Farm Code related to density. Okay. Since the proposal does not comply with the preferred plot ratio, remembering this is an acceptable outcome, or dwelling unit factor for the site, the development is required to be justified against element 1 performance criteria P2 of the Wises Farm Code, which states buildings in any precinct within Wises Farm shall generally accord with the stated intent for each precinct type and desired precinct character for each individual precinct. So it's only got to generally comply. You can't enforce it to the nth degree and can be conditioned. So that one's taken away from me. The building envelope intrudes into the desired setbacks of 3 of the 5 sides. Setbacks are considered important to achieve the anticipated precinct intent, and the design and form controls, as well to control the overall built form and massing of the development. Now, Council's urban design specialist has assessed the subject development application and has advised that the proposed setbacks are suitable for each of the road frontages. The development has been placed into Council's 3D model and reviewed to ensure that development is appropriate based on its location and the context of the surrounding area. The length of building and massing has been improved by the reduction of building length and increased separation between 45-metre lengths of buildings, loss of some of the initially proposed units, i.e. a reduction in unit yield.
Do you request an extension?
Thank you.
Councillor Johnson, seconded by Councillor Dixon. All those in favour? Carried unanimously.
Doing this so that the submitters out there get an understanding of what we have to assess.
I appreciate that.
Against the plan. A reduction in unit yield has created space to allow for separation of unit forms into shorter separate forms. Separation in building form allows space between units, provides opportunity for landscaping, views, breezes, and promotes a lighter, more open building form suitable for the Sunshine Coast environment. So that one's taken away from me. So then I come to parking, my pet one, and my colleagues here will know when we're discussing town planning, I believe our parking rates are too low. I see that when I get townhouses and units being built in my area and there's just cars, even regardless of them having 2 or 3 bedrooms, there's only 1 parking space per unit, and I've always said that's too low. Because I just see cars parked all up the streets everywhere. And I'll keep banging on with that in every planning meeting I get the opportunity. Now, in parking, it is noted the proposed development requires an acceptable measure, 188 parking spaces, 159 resident spaces and 29 visitor spaces. A total of 184 car parking spaces is proposed, comprising 153 resident spaces and 31 visitor spaces, including 2 persons with disability access. Further, the applicant undertook a comparison of car parking rates under Maroochydore Plan 2000, remembering that's the plan that's being assessed here, and current Sunshine Coast Planning Scheme 2014. And under the current Sunshine Coast Planning Scheme 2014, a total of 182 parking spaces, 153 resident spaces and 29 visitor spaces was required, meaning that the proposed development would exceed the current parking outcomes required in the town plan. So that one's taken away from it. So to conclude this, and the planners have done this very well and against the provisions, and that's why I'm explaining it so people understand. The proposed development sufficiently complies with the requirements of Maroochydore Plan 2000. Not our Sunshine Coast Plan 2014, because this is coming under the Maroochydore Plan 2000. And the Wisers Farm preliminary approval. So the application has been assessed against the Maroochydore Plan 2000 and the Wisers Farm preliminary approval, and regard has been given to all council policies. So it would be very difficult, nearly impossible in that background, to put up a logical case for a refusal that would be substantive enough against the planning provisions for a planning environment court to take in. So I'm left with no other option. It's been properly assessed, meets the requirements, and I'll have to support this today. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hungerford. Councillor Burns.
Thanks, through you,
Councillor
Madam
Burns, would
Deputy
you
Mayor.
like
No,
to
I'm good. I'm just a bit wobbly when I first get up, but apart from that, I'm okay. I think that's right. I actually rise and do support this. I actually had a series of questions to ask, but I felt like I was back at school when I had to do a presentation, but the smart kids in class always went first, and I had to follow them. So very much thanks to you, Councillor Dixon, for such a strong setting, and to you, Councillor Hungerford, for really ramming home this application. But I feel like the questions I had to ask have been answered, so thank you for raising them, and certainly the clarity. I just would like to note, though, that as you go through this report, and appreciate the efforts by the team here today, there is a significant change from when the applicant first brought this forward, talking 6 storeys, much higher density, and as has been stated, there's been a real focused effort on the applicant's behalf to actually bring this development into line with what is very much acceptable for the site. Some of the things that I particularly noted in it in terms of changes, there's things like, we've talked about the car parking, but actually what I like is that there's 177 bike parking spaces aligned with this development, which is exceptional because, as Councillor Dixon made point, people living in this space will more than likely be walking into the city centre as opposed to driving, or jumping on their pushy and pedalling to their heart's content. So I really like that sort of thing. I also note that it was required to have 30% landscape of the site. This application actually sees 42.2% of the site landscape. That's a really good outcome. The setbacks are appropriate. Through the work of the design team, there's been a significant change to the built form. In terms of breezeways, a reduction in the massing of the actual development. So from the streetscape, it doesn't feel overpowering. The ability to plant out those setbacks at the front will actually soften the built form. There's a lot about it that actually really sees it as being an appropriate level of development. So for me, I'm really grateful for the team and the work that they've done, and to actually see the progress from what was proposed to what this recommendation brings to the party. And I'm confident that the staff have taken all the feedback from the submitters seriously and have really advocated and prosecuted that to the fullest extent possible. So this will be getting my support today. Thank you, Deputy Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Burns. Councillor Broderick.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Deputy Chair. I'm a bit the same, Tim. I had a whole list of questions and it's all being covered from here on in. So one of the questions I did have, though, I think you touched on it before, and I think Councillor Dixon did as well, but with all of those submissions that went in originally and the changes have been made, have the development team heard back from any of the submitters following those changes?
Through the chair, I haven't seen any subsequent submissions coming through since the change was made earlier this year. So, but I ask if Marcus has received anything.
Yeah, through the chair. There's been probably very little communication since that time. There's been the odd kind of phone call or email. When's the application going to be decided? When is it going to a council meeting? We've just been responding to those kind of inquiries as they come through.
No, that's fine, thank you. And I agree, this is the place where we designated this sort of building to be, and I concur, and I'll be supporting this application today too. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Broderick. Councillor Johnston.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Mayor. I'd just like to say that coming into the meeting today, I had a lot of questions and they've been answered. And the concerns, any concerns that I had, I have to admit, have been dealt with by amendments to the application, and I'd like to thank our planning team for initiating these changes, because without them doing so, it would have been refused. So thank you very much, and I'd like to congratulate also my fellow councillors who have had a substantive research and given us good reasons as to why we should support this application. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Johnston. Councillor Law.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Deputy Mayor. One question first, please. You spoke a little bit about the requirements of it. The planning scheme doesn't talk to short or long-term accommodation. Can we condition this approval to prohibit short-term accommodation in any way at all?
Through the chair, that based on this application being assessed under the Maroochydore Plan 2000 as a superseded planning scheme, but it is current in this precinct, there's no ability for us to control short-term accommodation. It doesn't distinguish between permanent and short-term, so there would be no ability for us to include a condition along those lines.
Okay. Through you, Madam Deputy Mayor, a question for the CEO, if I may. Are we willing to explore what opportunities and avenues there may be to require this not to become available on the short-term rental market? I don't know what the mechanism might be, but could we please at least explore it as the condition package goes out and as we're having perhaps those conversations with the developer and proponent to get this to be long-term permanent accommodation only?
Thank you for the question, Councillor Law. Yes, we're very comfortable to explore what opportunities there may well be, and also to look at the regulatory environment with the planning minister to see whether there are any other mechanisms or potential changes in legislation that will be required for that.
Great. Excellent. Thank you very much for that, and to take that on board and see what we can do. There's very little left to say about this application. We need homes like we need homes. And so I will be supporting this. 116 homes coming in the core of the Sunshine Coast, in the city centre, which has been designed and developed to provide accommodation without the need to rely on a personal car for every trip that you make. It would be exciting to see those 184 car parks to look at how many extra dwellings could you provide if you weren't needing to provide a space and a place for a piece of metal to sit while it's not being used for probably 80% of its life. Not necessary. It is far more important that we deliver the maximum number of houses and dwellings that we possibly can at the moment. As Councillor Tim mentioned, 177 bicycle parking spaces. That's excellent. Because this area has been designed that you could actually live here without needing a car ever. If you were going away somewhere, there's public transport options. You could hire a car for a week when you need it, but you do not need to own a car if you live in the Maroochydore city centre. That's why it's been built in this particular way. So we have to get the message out there that, hey folks, guess what? It's possible to live without a car. You just have to choose where you live, how you live, and the choices you make to get around. And this area has been set up to make it really easy for people to do that. So 116 units, fantastic. Let's get on. And I hope that the developer will go with full speed to get these houses out of the ground so that we've got another contribution to our housing needs on the coast. So thanks very much for the work done, for all the comments from everyone today, and we can clearly see that it's the right decision to make this happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Law. Councillor Johnston, you've already spoken to the motion. Do you have a question? Yep.
My question, and I thank Councillor Law for bringing this subject up, but although it's being assessed under the Maroochydore Plan 2000, I was under the understanding that for short-term accommodation, like Airbnbs and those sort of things, unless the building was built prior to 2014, they had to apply to council. So this building will not be built before 2014. So therefore, if someone wants to have short-term accommodation, can we use that situation to prohibit it or stop it or control it?
Through the chair, you're correct. If we weren't within the Wisers Farm preliminary approval area, dwellings constructed outside of that area prior to 2014 can be utilised as short-term accom. We are in a unique sort of situation here where Maroochydore Plan 2000 continues to be the applicable planning scheme for all dwellings, and so yeah, that's unfortunately we're stuck with that provision under the preliminary approval.
Thank you, Mr Alderson. Councillor Dixon, would you like to close? No need? All right, I'll put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? And that's unanimous. Thank you. Just get the Mayor and councillors to return.
Thank you, everyone. We'll move on now to item 8.2, and Ms Dunbar is here to present the monthly financial update. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, Madam Mayor, councillors and council executive team. I'm here today to present the financial performance report for May. At the end of May, council achieved an operating result of $49.3 million, which is $4 million below the current budget. Council's total revenue is $2.5 million below year-to-date budget, mainly due to fees and charges below budget, which by $531,000. That's made up of holiday parks, development services and parking business unit, all below budget, and this is partially offset by higher revenue from parking infringements, resource recovery recyclables and the Sunshine Coast Stadium. Lease revenue is currently tracking higher than budget by $276,000, and our interest received from investments is lower than budget by $2.3 million. Total expenditure is $1.5 million less than the current year-to-date budget. The major expenditure variances contributing to this is lower than expected spending on contracts for digital and information services and the transport network management, a quarry inventory adjustment, which is a favourable $938,000. Street lighting electricity is lower than budget by $570,000. And expenditures for the Environment Levy and Transport Levy projects are currently below budget by $2.6 million, and also our operating projects are below budget by $1.1 million. That is offset some by the recurrent capital expenditures, which are currently $5.8 million above budget. Our capital works program year-to-date has progressed 85.3% of the $268.4 million budget, with total expenditure to date reaching $229 million. The core capital works program is 90.3% complete, with the actual spend accounting to $152.4 million. At the end of May, Council's cash balance is $135.3 million and our total debt is $421 million. The drawdown for our borrowings did occur last week on the 11th of June. Council currently doesn't hold any term deposits. And the current risks, which are outlined in the report as well, include the reported actual year-to-date financial results include several items that are estimated pending the completion of year-end processing. It is likely that the end-of-year position for depreciation and recurrent capital expenses will be significantly greater than the budget, which will adversely impact the operating result. The year-to-date employee costs appear on track to achieve the targeted vacancy rate. And the recommendation today that Council receive and note the report titled May 2025 Financial Performance Report.
Thank you. Councillors, may I have a mover? Councillor Hungerford, seconded. Councillor Broderick. Councillor Hungerford.
Through you, Madam Mayor. I don't think I need to go through those again. There's a mixed bag. A lot of things coming under budget, some things over, but not enough of those. So we've got significant headwinds coming into our formulating our new budget. Quite pleasingly to me, we have low debt, $421 million, which is one of our greatest strengths. We've got there. What is worrying me is the cash balance. It's very thin and we need to build that in the next few years. But what's really sitting in front of us, find the right page here, is our risks going into the new, formulating a new budget. We're not the only council in this boat. The reported actual year-to-date financial result includes several items that are estimated pending the completion of the year-end processing. With the forensic audit we have going, Keith, I'm looking forward to seeing the actual bottom line that we're starting with for the year and then build how we build into the next 2 to 3 years to get ourselves back to where we need to be. It is likely that the end-of-year position for depreciation and recurrent capital expenses will be significantly greater than the budget, which will adversely affect the operating result, and that's the challenge we have ahead of us. It's not an easy year to formulate a budget, especially with grants and subsidies getting harder to achieve and our costs rising. Even though they say the CPI is within range, the cost of materials and services is still going up substantially greater than that, and that's the headwind we have in front of us. Challenges are before us, but I feel confident we can get there. And we're working on that. So I'm waiting till I get those final figures end of the year to know the position and then look at our strategy for going forward into the year and building those cash balances again. So that's the challenge we have in front of us. We're in a situation where we've got to be very focused and competent. It's not a dire situation. We can competently get through this if we focus sound financial principles. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hungerford. Councillors, anyone else who wishes to speak? Councillor Broderick.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor. Just a couple of things actually, because I know we've got our budget coming out in the next couple of weeks, so we're all looking forward to that with real excitement. Look at the excitement around the room. So I haven't got too much to say. Just a couple of questions actually, Sharon, while we've got some people in the room. Can you explain the interest received from investments being below budget? So what does that include? Because it's considerable this time. Thanks.
So through the chair, our forecasted interest from investments for the budget was obviously based on having a higher cash balance. So with the reduction in our cash balance, obviously that affects our interest received on investments. Also a little bit of a lower interest rate than what we had probably forecast with the respect to the budget as well.
Okay, thank you. And the borrowings that we drew down that you mentioned, could you just let everybody know what they're for, please?
Yep, so through the chair. So the borrowings for this year of the $23.2 million, I'm just going to bring up my piece of paper. So they were for the majority of that was for waste, which is about $20 million, and then there was 1.5 with respect to holiday parks, and a very small 200,000, which was related to the Caloundra Aerodrome Master Plan.
Excellent. So we can assume that they are included in the budget then for next financial year as well for our capital works. Yep.
So through the chair, yes. So with respect to borrowings, there will be, yes, some ongoing. Majority of those will be ongoing projects that are happening. Yep.
Thank you. So we can all see the figures. We've got budget coming up, but I thought, hey, let's look at some of the good stuff that's happening in here because we talked about capital works expenditure to date, and this is the stuff that we've been delivering for the community. This is the stuff that's actually been happening in the last 12 months, and already we've spent basically $230 million in our capital works projects delivering for the community. So they were the things that we committed to last year and that we've been able to deliver on, and that I'm excited to see that our teams have been working really hard to make sure they deliver those efficiently and to budget this year. So lots of stuff to come. We know budget's coming, but thank you for your work, Sharon.
Thank you, Councillor Broderick. Councillor Johnston.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would like to be as excited and positive as the previous speaker, but unfortunately I'm finding that rather difficult. I want to ask a question first of all, and perhaps it's one to the CFO, Chief Financial Officer. The unrestricted cash, which is currently, well, at the end of last month was 55.8 million. Is that likely to reduce during June, during this month? And if so, have you got any idea as to what it's likely to be?
Thank you. The Chief Financial Officer, Keith Parsons. Welcome, Keith. This is your first ordinary meeting with us, so welcome there to the podium.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you for the question, Councillor Johnson. Through you, Madam Mayor, yes, that balance is expected to reduce further during the month. Council, has the wages and our suppliers to continue to pay during the month of June, so we forecast that restricted cash balance by the end of June to be in the order of $22 million.
Thank you very much. And we're still paying our people that are doing work for us and within the normal timeframes. We're not pushing them out to try and help the bottom line.
Thank you for the question, Councillor Johnson. Through you, Madam Mayor. No, we haven't changed our payment terms, Councillor. We are fulfilling our obligations in that regard.
Yep. Thank you. I don't have any more questions for you, but I would just like to let everyone know that we haven't been sitting idly, just letting this situation develop. we've actually, during Budget Review 1, Budget Review 2 and Budget Review 3, we've actually deferred or created savings in the vicinity of, was about $52 million. And every division has been impacted by that because works has had to have been pushed out into future years, and our operational costs have been reduced for this financial year. So although we are, as was mentioned, we have got a situation where we've got a much larger than anticipated depreciation for the year, that's probably something that, well, it isn't probably, that's something that came at the last minute and we just didn't have time to fix it because we only really had a month of budget period and we're already committed to a lot of our expenditure, etc. So that's why the Mayor made the announcement about us having a deficit at the end of this financial year, and we're trying to be open and transparent in relation to it all. So thank everybody for their hard work, and I look forward to seeing the final figures and also the budget figures for next financial year, the final budget figures. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Johnston, and thank you for highlighting the responsible financial management of this council along this past financial year. Councillor Hungerford, would you like to close? No? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Parsons. Councillors, I'll now put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? And that is carried unanimously. Thank you, Ms. Dunbar. Moving on to item 8.3, Mr. Vandenberg is here, the amendment of the 2024-25 contracting plan. Over to you. Welcome back to the chamber this morning, Mr. Vandenberg.
Mayor. Good morning, councillors. This report relates to the amendment of the 24-25 contracting plan. I can do that. In 2018, Council resolved to adopt the strategic contracting provisions of the local government regulations. Having adopted the strategic contracting provisions, the regulation requires that Council make and adopt a contracting plan for each financial year. The contracting plan for the 24-25 financial year was adopted at the Council meeting on the 20th of June 2024. The contracting plan must, amongst other things, include the contracts that Council considers will be significant. Council considers contracts with an anticipated value of greater than $5 million to be significant. Prior to entering into any significant contract, Council must make a significant contracting plan for each of those identified contracts. These significant contracting plans must be approved by the CEO. Due to changes in timing, strategy and value, the list of significant contracts included in the 24-25 contracting plan requires amendment to align with the significant contracts that Council has or will enter into this financial year. The regulations provide that Council can, by resolution, amend a contracting plan at any time before the end of the financial year to which the plan relates. The purpose of this report is to update Council on the progress of each of the identified significant contracts and detail the proposed amendments to the 24-25 contracting plan. The 24-25 contracting plan identified 10 significant contracts that Council anticipated entering into during the 24-25 financial year. What's presented on the next few screens is an update on the progress of each of those identified contracts. I won't go into each. The status of each is detailed in the report. Out of the 10 that were identified, 3 have been completed and contracts have been entered into. 1 is anticipated for release prior to the end of this financial year. 1 is still under evaluation, and 5 did not have a procurement activity undertaken during the 24-25 financial year. So due to a combination of changes in timing, strategy or contract value, a number of amendments are required to the list of significant contracts. There are 9 amendments identified. to firstly remove contracts from the list that will now not be entered into during the financial year or which do now not meet the requirements for a significant contract. There are 7 such contracts identified for removal. It's anticipated that 4 of these will be included in the 25-26 contracting plan. Secondly, the addition of 2 contracts which meet the requirements of a significant contract. Those additional 2 are on the screen there now. The result of these proposed amendments is that the list of 5 contracts presented on the screen now is the list of contracts that Council has or will enter into this financial year, and is the list contained in the amended 24-25 contracting plan included as Appendix A to the report. The 24-25 contracting plan will be amended in no other way than to replace the original list of 10 with the 5 now on the screen. The effect of this amendment is to align the significant contracts included in the contracting plan with, firstly, the significant contracts that Council has already or will enter into this financial year, and secondly, the significant contracting plans that have been approved by the CEO. And that's the officer recommendation.
Thank you. Councillors, can I have a mover for this item? Moved Councillor Natoli, seconded Councillor Hungerford. Councillor Natoli, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Ben, for the great work that you do. It's just refreshing to see that we're constantly reviewing this policy every year, comes to us every year, and even though this policy is predominantly largely unchanged, there are some significant things that I just want to highlight. The first one is the anticipated contract value to include options to extend. And our procurement thresholds determine the procurement route to be followed based on the anticipated contract value. The change being proposed will make it clear that the proposers of determining the anticipated contract value and therefore the procurement route, the value of the entire term of the contract, including options to extend, must be used. So, moving into that change wording now, that the anticipated contract value means that the total amount exclusive of GST to be paid to the supplier for the contracted goods, services or works for the full term, including known extension options for contracts under which Council receives revenue. The threshold applies and anticipated contract value refers to the total amount to be paid in Council. And then the other factor that's really important is that the funds must be available in the budget prior to release of the RFQ tender process. So currently the procurement policy addresses the ability to only spend money in the financial year it is adopted in the budget for the financial year. It does not address undertaking a procurement without budget to support the resulting contract. So the wording change in the procurement policy is that the procurement process may only be undertaken where there is a budget for the expenditure approved in Council's annual budget, endorsed in the 10-year capital works plan, or it is otherwise authorised by a Council resolution or legislation. The third part, which is really the part that I think is really a good aspect of change, is the evidence required to support local business premises. Now, in the past, we have dealt with, supporting more local businesses in our area, and in the past, the local preferences in the procurement guidelines defined a local supplier as a supplier who maintains their primary office or business premises within the LGA, or has an office or business premises, but not primary business premises within the LGA. So currently, there is no requirement, no evidence to support the existence of an office or business premises. So the wording changes requires now the evidence of a physical business premises within the Sunshine Coast LGA, supporting categorisation of the local supplier, could include ASIC documents, utility bills, or lease rental agreements containing business name and business location. The evidence of a significant business activity on the Sunshine Coast LGA and or significant employee base undertaking work on the Sunshine Coast LGA, supporting categorisation as a deemed local supplier.
Councillor Natoli, just clarifying that this is the item on the contracting plan, not the procurement issue. So on the contracting plan is the item that we're currently having before us as item 8.3. Okay. Did you wish to speak to the contracting plan? Okay. Yes, we have moved the contracting plan. We have had that seconded. And now I'll go to Councillor Landsberg. Thank you, Councillor.
Thank you. Through the Chair. I'll just be brief. Obviously, I rise to support the officer's recommendation. This is a huge part of our responsibility in Council in terms of these contracting plans and what we actually deliver out to the community and further. Just to touch on Councillor Johnson's comment around the increase in costs and charges that we're actually obviously discussing during our budget deliberations and workshops. When you look at some of the reports here in terms of labour costs in regards to our facilities, and the total spend in our facilities is around $58 million, and that's over 241 suppliers. But to see those costs in our wages, obviously 4.2% over the year 2023. We've seen our utility services up 3.7% and construction costs by 4.1%. And also rental prices rising 7.3%, and as well as electricity prices. And fortunately, if we didn't receive the energy bill rebate relief, those prices would have been around 17% increase in electricity charges. So, as well as, just to touch on that, our insurance prices increasing 16%. So many challenges for us as a council to work forward. But yeah, recommendations obviously to support the team. Great work there as well, Ben, and thank you for what you do behind the scenes. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Landsberg. Councillor Hungerford.
Speaking here, Madam Mayor, I'll actually speak to the contracting plan. I was a bit confused before. Now, this is straightforward. Having adopted a strategic contracting procedures, the Local Government Regulation 2012 requires Council to make and adopt a contracting plan each financial year. This is standard business. The contracting plan must include the contracts that Council considers will be significant. Amendments to the list of significant contracts identified in the 24-25 contracting plan are required to ensure the list accurately reflects the significant contracts that Council has or will enter into during the 24-25 financial year. Significant contracts are contracts that have an anticipated value of $5 million or more, and or are deemed significant contracts following assessment under the procurement profiling matrix and the risk assessment calculator. So the amendments to the 24-25 contracting plan do not conflict with the procurement policy or any other current policy positions or documents of Council. So this is straightforward business, and it's just crossing the T's, dotting the I's and being very transparent with how we deal with these things. And I thank you for the work in this area. It's a requirement each year and we do it very confidently. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hungerford. If there are no other councillors, Councillor Natoli, would you like to... Oh, Councillor Suarez.
Thank you, Madam
My
Mayor.
apologies. Your light just popped on there at the last second.
At the very last minute. Sorry, Madam Mayor. Through you, just wanted to explain that a number of the contracts have been amended, either removed or put in as an addition, for often reasons outside of Council's control. A number of projects are multi-year planned projects, for example, the Nambour Resource Recovery Centre. So we, as a council, need to consider when those contracts go out in which financial year. And so for that one that was removed for the following financial year, it's just that project progression reason. The QRA landslip remediation at First Bay in Coolum Beach has been added in again for this financial year, and the reason being for that one is that project was significantly impacted by rain and weather events. We were hoping to have the project completed this financial year. Unfortunately, that's not the case, and residents have been updated that that will be completed later this current calendar year. So hence the inclusion of it. So the team have to juggle the way these projects are progressing and whether they're included in the contracting plan for this financial year or next financial year. And I just wanted to make sure that the community understood that rationale. So thank you, Mr Vandenberg.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Natoli, would you like to close?
Obviously, all of these contracting plans must still meet all of the different guidelines, and those guidelines that I mentioned before will be relevant in terms of all of these contracts that will be coming before us at the moment. So, thank you.
Thank you, councillors. I'll now put the motion to the vote. Those in favour? And that is carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors. Thank you, Mr Brandenburg. Thank you. Okay, we now move to item 8.4, application of the National Competition Policy. Thank you, Mr Crock.
Thank you, Councillor. So, councillors, this report comes to you every year seeking a resolution for the application of National Competition Policy. So today we're just going to give you a high-level overview of the regime, how we apply it to our business activities, and particularly those smaller business activities where there's discretion whether or not to apply it. And we're also pointing out those activities that are not business activities. So at the centre of the policy is the competitive neutrality principle, and that basically says that council's business activities should be run on a level playing field with the private sector and not have any net advantage or disadvantage. So in looking at competition policy, the first question is it a business activity? Is it trading in goods and services? If yes, then the regime needs to be examined. If no, it doesn't apply. Secondly is what's the expenditure threshold? If it's over 9.7 million, is it a significant business activity? Or if it's over 340,000, is it a prescribed business activity? Looking at all those, then council needs to decide by resolution whether or not to apply. And if you do apply, then the pricing provisions, financial reporting, complaints process all kick in. So for each new significant business activity, you need to consider whether the benefits in terms of service cost and quality outweigh the costs of applying the regime. And there's some different business models that you can use: full cost pricing, commercialisation, or corporatisation. This year we'll see the holiday parks business activity go above that $9.7 million threshold. That means we need to do a public benefit assessment and looking at the different business models to use for the holiday parks moving forward. So you need to go out and consult with the public and industry groups, unions, prepare an assessment of the benefits of those different business models, write a report which will come back to council, and then once you've made a decision, advise the minister. Now, for the smaller business activities, council has discretion on whether it applies competition policy. And if you do, then those four aspects are the competitive neutrality principle, pricing provisions, financial reporting, and complaints process will apply. If not, then they won't. So what we're recommending is, as per last year, waste and resource management is a significant business activity, and that will apply full cost pricing. The corporatised entities will continue as they are, and apply the Code of Competitive Conduct to the smaller business activities of holiday parks and quarries. Now, I know holiday parks, we said we have to do a public benefit assessment, but in the meantime, we'll keep going as usual. For those 10 activities that we won't be providing or applying competition policy, they're listed there, and the Appendix 1 lists the justification for not doing so. And then finally, these activities we've assessed as non-business activities. And primarily they're the core council functions, regulatory functions. In documenting the statement of reasons for the prescribed business activities that we won't, we've been look at the corporate plan linkages, the public benefit objectives, and what the target market and pricing is. And that brings us to the recommendation.
Thank you. Councillor's a mover for this item. Councillor Johnston, a seconder. Councillor Hungerford, thank you. Councillor Johnston.
Thank you. I'll just ask a question first in relation to the quarries or any of the issues that we are going to, or any of the programs that we are going to apply this legislation to. In relation to quarries, so if we don't have to meet the competition policy whenever we're supplying internally, is that correct? So it's only when we're supplying externally?
Through you, Madam Chair, that's correct. The business activity test is whether you're trading in goods and services. So if you're not trading, you don't need to apply it.
Right. So, yeah, I suppose we're hoping to build the quarry process and sales to such a degree that it's going to increase significantly. But this applies only to the costs, not to the income, doesn't it?
Through you, Madam Chair. What the legislation requires is you to look at your cost base and include full costs across the board when you're determining your revenue requirement. So it does touch both revenue and expenditure.
Yeah, that's my understanding. Thank you for bringing this to us. It's just a normal process each year that we go through this, and it's something that we have to take very seriously, so which we do, and I thank you all for that.
Thank you, Councillor Johnston. Councillors, any others to speak? No. Councillor Johnston, would you like to close? No. Okay, I will then put the motion to the vote. Those in favour? And the motion is carried unanimously. Thank you. Thank you, councillors. Thank you, Mr Crock, Mr Vandenberg. Thank you. We now welcome Ms Burden to present item 8.5. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm presenting on the annual review of the delegations to the CEO. Delegations are an important part of a council's governance and decision-making framework. They allow councils to get on with the day-to-day business of providing services to the community. There are over 170 acts, regulations and local laws which require council to take action or make decisions in some way, which is why the Local Government Act under section 257 allows councils to delegate anything that is lawfully able to be delegated. That is, council cannot delegate anything that legislation regulates must be exercised by council resolution, for example, levying rates and charges or making a local law. The only officer position that council can delegate to is the CEO. This is done via an instrument of delegation, which must also be reviewed annually by council under section 257 of the Act. The CEO is then able to subdelegate to appropriate council officers and must keep a register of all delegations. The annual review of council's delegations to the CEO ensures that any gaps or changes to legislation are identified, ensuring that the CEO and consequently the rest of the organisation has the appropriate levels of authority to manage the operational activities of council. To identify which functions and powers can be delegated, council utilises the service provided through the Local Government Association of Queensland, which provides biannual updates of all delegations relevant under Queensland legislation. The last annual review of council to the CEO delegation occurred in June of 2024, and this year's review has identified 3 additional pieces of legislation which are recommended for inclusion in the list of acts delegated in Schedule 1 of the CEO delegation. And the report details the purpose of these acts and where they may be relevant to local government. The latest review also identified legislative references in Schedule 2 of the delegation which require administrative updating, and none of these changes have any impact on the CEO's current delegation. It is being recommended that Council adopt the updated Council to CEO delegation as part of the required annual review. And following adoption, any updates that need to be made to the CEO's sub-delegation to Council officers and the Register of Delegation will be undertaken. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Ms Burton. Councillors, can I have a mover for this motion? Councillor Hungerford and seconder, Councillor Johnston. Thank you. Councillor Hungerford.
Through you, Madam Mayor. This is very straightforward. Under Section 257(5) of the Local Government Act 2009, it's required of us to review this annually and put it in place. Delegations are required so the CEO can delegate those down through the organisation for things to happen. He can't go out there and do every little bit of legislation himself. And we've got the organisation to do that. But we cannot put things there that councillors are responsible for. So we can't delegate those responsibilities away. But it is for the efficient operation of the organisation and for our staff to be able to competently carry out their duties out there in the field. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Hungerford. Councillor Landsberg.
Thank you. Just got in.
Yep.
Thank you, through the chair. Just a question around the State Emergency Service Act. And it just quotes that Queensland were governed by a combination of older legislation and frameworks, including Disaster Management Act 2003, and then formalised responsibilities to provide clearer guidelines and enhanced powers to local governments to manage SES units. Just, is there any comment from the CEO in regards to other enhanced powers we can actually already achieve than what we already are doing for SES and emergency services?
Thank you. Thank you for the question, Councillor Landsberg. I cannot think of any without some notice. I'm very happy to take that under consideration and explore whether there are any additional ones. We're certainly keen to make sure that we're able to expedite things as far as emergencies are concerned. So my apologies, but I'll have to take that on notice.
Thank you. I know it's really just a comment in the actual report and a credit to our council, because when we activate and go up to stand up, and obviously our disaster management teams here is an incredible achievement. So it was just a little bit surprising to see that comment in there. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Landsberg. No other councillors wishing to speak. Councillor Hungerford, do you wish to close? No? Okay, I'll put the motion to the vote then. Those in favour? And the motion is carried unanimously. Thank you, Ms Burton. And we move to item 8.6, which is the councillor portfolio system for 2025, and shortly we will welcome Mr Flanagan to present the item. I hear footsteps. Welcome Mr Flanagan, making an entrance for us.
Thank you. Good morning, Madam Mayor, councillors, members of the community watching online. Today I'm going to present to you the councillor portfolio system for 2025. The purpose of today's discussion is really to consider the portfolio system that we propose to commence from 1 July 2025. The existing portfolio structure we have aligns to the corporate plan goals. This provides a strong connection between our strategic directions and the governance system that supports their delivery. Council adopted the Corporate Plan 2530 in February this year, in 2025. This document comes into effect on 1 July and sets the vision, goals and strategic directions for the next 5 years. Today's report would ensure the portfolio structure contributes to Council's governance framework to support the delivery of that plan. The report includes a document that shows the portfolio system and the protocols that support it. This outlines the key benefits of a portfolio system. There is also key roles of portfolio councillors within that document, which include providing a key point of contact and engagement with community groups and associations, participation in working groups to provide inputs on topics relevant to those portfolios, ensuring consistent communication and messaging for portfolio matters, and providing elective representative views on initiatives and championing the priorities that are established by Council. As mentioned, in February 2025, Council adopted a corporate plan that covers the period of 2025 to 2030. This introduced a new goals structure. In particular, the introduction of a new Managing for Growth goal that integrates land use and transport planning, and an organisational excellence goal, and as a result, some changes, particularly around the strong community and environment and livability goals. Today's report seeks to reflect these changes in the responsibilities to the portfolio system. The full list of responsibilities is provided with the report today. At a high level, some of the key elements around region shaping projects, regional advocacy and intergovernmental relations. These would remain with the Mayor. Under strong community, Councillor Law and Councillor Bunnig would look after elements including community development and support services, community sports and recreation, arts and heritage. Environment and livability, Councillor Burns and Councillor Suarez would look after environment and livability matters, including place development and design. Resilient economy, Councillor Landsberg and Councillor Joe Natoli would look after elements of local business support, industry attraction, tourism and major events. Managing for growth, Councillor Johnston and Councillor Dixon, as mentioned, around integrated transport, urban planning and development assessment, as well as some of our local law implementation. And for organisational excellence, Councillor Hungerford and Councillor Broderick would look after a number of components, including finance and procurement, corporate strategy and policy, customer service and governance. Mayor and councillors, the recommendations presented to you today will put in place a council portfolio system to commence 1 July 2025, which would support the implementation of the corporate plan over the next 5 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Flanagan. Councillors, can I have someone move a motion for this item? Councillor Suarez. Seconder, Councillor Burns. Councillor Suarez.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor. I wasn't actually prepared to move this item, but I'm very happy to do so. Essentially, not a lot has changed. We seem to have the same councillors covering a lot of the same portfolios. However, what's within those portfolios has been rejigged to better align with the way the corporate plan has been written and the organisation is being structured. When we consider our portfolios, we may have a lead on certain elements, but it doesn't preclude any councillor from becoming involved with particular projects by putting their hand up to be on a project control group or assisting in any other matters. So I certainly will miss having the planning, strategic planning portfolio. I really did enjoy that over the last few years. And I also invite any other councillors who may have a particular interest in the environment and livability space to certainly come along and sit in on meetings with us as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Suarez. Councillor Dixon.
To you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, I think the portfolio system is actually a fantastic one, and the reason why is because you get to learn a lot about the things that are happening specifically in areas of council that you may not usually be involved with. One thing that Councillor Maria talked about is the fact that whilst you are a portfolio councillor, it doesn't preclude others from getting involved. And I'll give you an example. Strategic land use planning, development assessment, the planning scheme, they're all big items that come to us as a council, as a formal decision-making body. So there's a lot of things you can't escape because most things will actually come to your OM, and we all get involved in that. But I think one thing that's always nice to have, and I look around the room, I see what I call subject matter experts who know just a little bit more about what we're talking about at an OM, and you know, more times than not, I will lean on them to see how they are thinking and how they are formulating their views in my decision-making process. And I think that's very important. In the changes with the portfolio I share with Councillor Winston, I'm quite upset that I'm losing customer service. Customer service is a fantastic area of council, and in fact, it's probably one of the areas we get most of the compliments about. You know, in council, too often we hear about the negatives. Customer service, it's all positives. The team are very hard-working. The community loves them. They score very highly on our interactions with the public, and they're always finding new ways to do things better. And we will miss them because they're just a fantastic part of council. On that note, I also want to say that I'm thankful to be working with Councillor Winston Johnson. I find him very level-headed at times, At times I find him very level-headed, and he can settle me down.
And at other times?
Sometimes he says, all right, young fella, we might just have a think about that, which I find very important. But also he's got a lot of historical knowledge, which, you know, as a person on the coast, it's always interesting to find out how things were done and how certain projects have come about. I find that very useful. But his knowledge around planning and growth has been something I found very interesting and useful in my role. This portfolio, managing growth, is a difficult one. You know, I will admit that there's going to be a lot of interesting debates and discussions around the planning scheme. But one thing that I think is very, very complementary is the introduction of the public transport system and network that now comes over to the portfolio, because nothing will be done in isolation. The planning scheme must rely on public transport. In fact, they can't be done in isolation. They need to be done within the same portfolio, and I see the benefit in that. All in all, I'm really appreciative of the work that's been done. Some portfolios have a lot of work in them, a lot of departments, and I know that there's a lot of work that councillors do in this space. So, one, yes, I'm very much into support, and two, just to acknowledge the councillors in this room who are putting in a lot of time and effort working with managers, the executive. In fact, the executive are working very, very hard to make sure that information does get through to councillors. And one thing that I've always found in this role is that it's good for departments to have champions on projects, because sometimes staff are alone when they come to council, and it's good to know that they have got the support politically of councillors going into those debates as much as they can. Thank you very much, and I'm again grateful that I've got the portfolio I've got, working with a person who I do respect.
Thank you, Councillor Dixon. Councillor Bunnag.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Appreciate the opportunity to speak on this. Really just wanted to, similar to Councillor Dixon, reflect on the opportunity to be in the community portfolio again for the next 3 years. But did want to take particular note of the fact that communities will be no longer the home of our integrated transport delivery, and Councillor Law and I'm sure Councillor Law might speak to it, will miss being able to contribute in that space from a portfolio perspective. But I did want to just thank the staff that we have worked with throughout this term. In particular, I want to thank Deb Robinson, I want to thank Ben McGovern, I want to thank Yolanda Burt, I want to thank James Troots, who is no longer with us in terms of this organisation. You know, this team has worked really cohesively with myself and Councillor Law on some big projects. We have transformed the way that the transport levy works and collects money, and is actually spending money on public transport projects right now. and we'll be funding more public transport projects such as more buses very soon. It is funding projects for vulnerable users in our community from an active transport perspective, which is extremely important, particularly in a cash-constrained environment from a council perspective. And it has also contributed to planning of big-picture public transport transformative projects on the Sunshine Coast. And I guess one of the benefits about not being the portfolio holder anymore is that I get to speak more freely about transport matters, which might be a good thing or a bad thing for some people. But the reality is, it's called integrated transport planning for a reason. And it's really important that we adopt a one network approach when we consider public transport planning into the future. And we're going to look forward to seeing what the state and federal government have to say around that as we move forward towards the 2032 Olympics and Paralympic Games, because the one thing that people keep saying to me when I go out and talk to people, whether it's young, old or middle-aged like myself, is the need for public transport enhancement on the Sunshine Coast is important. You hear people at the Young Salty Saturdays pop-ups as part of our youth plan at the moment. People are saying, you know, the lack of public transport on the Sunshine Coast is prohibitive. So it is really important, and I'm excited to hear what Councillor Dixon had to say about the integration between land use planning and public transport going forward. It has to be integrated. It can't be separate. You have to treat them one and the same. And it's important that the state and federal government jump on board the bus in terms of working with council to make sure we have an integrated transport outcome on the Sunshine Coast. So I just want to close by saying thank you to the team that I've had the opportunity to work with. As I said, I'll probably be speaking a bit more freely about public transport and transport issues generally in the future, being outside this portfolio, but thank you for the work that you've done. And to Councillor Johnson and to Councillor Dixon, I wish you all the best, and I hope you have a lot of fun with the fun team.
Thank you, Councillor Bunag. You're right, public transport vital in our planning going forward, so we'll look forward to that. Councillor Johnston.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Luke, for bringing this forward. It's been a few months in gestation, but because it has to start from the 1st of July. So it's good. And I couldn't disagree more with Councillor Dixon, because instead of using my name, I would have used his. So he's been a wonderful support, and we've worked really well together. I'd just like to invite Councillor Law and Councillor Bunag to, whenever they like, come to our portfolio meetings, particularly to talk about the subjects that Councillor Bunag just spoke about, because you've got quite an accumulation of knowledge and very good opinions about a lot of those sort of things, integrated transport, etc. So we'd love to hear from you. In fact, it might be a good idea of the first meeting if we asked you to come along and tell us about what you think and what you've done over the last period of time. Now, we've also been very fortunate to have had the ELT and Deborah Robinson and also Ben McGovern as advisors and helping us through, and Shona Jacobs, etc. It's been fantastic for the last 5 years to have them and work with them. Well, I haven't always worked with Ben, but Ben's now in charge of that area. And I'd really encourage all fellow councillors, because I admire this council, because we have got some excellent thinkers who have a lot of knowledge that they can put forward. And I think that's probably one of the strengths of our council, is that we get along, we respect each other's opinion, we don't always agree, but we don't abuse each other, we don't have hates or dislikes or anything like that. So good luck to all of the portfolio holders, and thank you very much to the CEO and also to the executive for their support and continuing support. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Johnston. You're right. The collaborative approach of this council with these councillors and the mature approach is something that I really value also. So thank you for highlighting that. Councillor Suarez, would you like to close?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, for someone who wasn't about to move this motion, I suddenly find myself with a lot to say. And you took the words out of my mouth, I think, from the speakers that have stood before us. Collaboration is the theme, and while on paper it looks quite structured and linear, that's not the case in reality. You know, despite working very closely with particular executive in your portfolio, and I'll give Bill a shout out, seeing as everyone's giving us a shout out. You know, we work very closely with all of the ELT regarding matters that are coming before council, and also with each other when particular projects are coming through. I know Councillor Broderick has always invited councillors to the audit committee. I haven't attended one since you've been in council, Councillor Broderick, but I certainly have when there's been items on the agenda that are relevant to perhaps my portfolio or my division, or a matter of interest. So while on paper it looks quite linear, we are actually a very collaborative council in terms of those regional issues, and I look forward to that continuing under this new portfolio structure. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Suarez. Councillor Zolnell. Oh. Just snuck that one in as well there, Councillor Suarez. Okay, I will now put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? And the motion is carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors. Thank you, Mr Flanagan. And we will continue now, and I welcome Mr Thornton to the chamber to answer any questions for item 8.7, the Audit Committee meeting. So welcome, Mr Thornton.
Through you, Madam Mayor. So good morning, Madam Mayor, councillors, Mr CEO, group executives and members of the community. Just here to present on the last report on the last audit committee, as well as to put forward for endorsement approval the program of work for 25-26 financial year. I'll take the paper as read, and just we're looking for the receiving and noting the report on the matters, endorsing the minutes, and then accepting the recommendation of the audit committee on the plan. So that's what we're asking.
Thank you. Councillors, can I have someone move the item? That is Councillor Broderick, a seconder, Councillor Hungerford. Councillor Broderick.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, through the chair. Thanks, Tom, for being here today. And yes, of course, the invitation is always open. I actually had that noted to say, hey, make sure you come to the next audit committee meeting. This is I love going to the audit committee meetings. This is where our integrity and our accountability all happens as well, and keeps us all in check. And with all of the discussion that we've had around budget and depreciation, all those kinds of things that we've had, I think it's worth noting that Queensland Audit Office are involved in this process as well, and what they have been receiving is correct, and they're happy with our processes to date, but they're always there keeping us in check, which is wonderful. Just wanted to bring our attention to point C there that we've got. So when if we approve this motion today, it talks about we will be approving the internal audit program of work for 2026. And just for those of you, just in case you haven't read it, this talks about the reviews that will be undertaken both internally and then reported to our audit committee. So we're talking about the reviews, external reviews for our Cherbourg Aboriginal Shire Council. That one's there and listed, and chat about there if you want to have a look at that. But we're also looking at our services for built infrastructure and our tree management, council-wide compliance chain of responsibility for heavy national law, our business performance and supplier arrangements, which includes all of our procurement. These are the things we're looking at this year. Our business performance in regards to our accounts payable. We'll be looking at our econ community development with our holiday parks, and our customer and planning services with our infrastructure charges. So they're the reviews that we'll be taking on this year as well, if this motion is approved today. So thank you, Tom, for all your work. So I had a few questions come from the community about internal and external audits, and just wanted to assure everyone that we both do internal and external and take that really seriously. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Broderick. Any other councillors who wish to speak to this item? No. Councillor Broderick, would you like to close? All good. Okay, I'll now put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? And that is carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors. Thank you, Mr Thornton. Okay. Well, councillors, we will pause now for morning tea and we will return in 15 minutes. 15 minutes. We'll see you back here at 11:15. Thank you and welcome back after morning tea. And we are up to item 8.8 and we welcome Ms Lane to present this item for the disposal of multiple lease lots at the Caloundra Aerospace Park. Over to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor. Good morning, councillors, CEO and members of the community that are watching online. The purpose of this report is to seek an exception from Council in accordance with Section 236 of the Local Government Regulation 2012 to dispose of land via lease by releasing several lease lots in Caloundra Aerospace Park within the aerodrome on the open market. Council endorsed the Caloundra Aerodrome Master Plan 2042 in November 2022. Stage 1 of the master plan identifies the potential for the release of approximately 6.3 hectares of land through an extension of Pathfinder Drive to support growth of existing businesses and to encourage new investment for businesses compatible with the aeronautical industry. Last year, Council released to the market the opportunity to lease the proposed new lots via a tender process. The tender closed in November with the evaluation process having concluded. Negotiations are continuing with a number of shortlisted respondents on certain proposed lots, but the other proposed lots remain available. The aerial photo shows a highlighted area in red, identifying the expansion area. Council would be responsible for the provision of infrastructure and extension of Pathfinder Drive to accommodate the lease lots with the design currently underway. The lot sizing and quantity may change as the design progresses. Where a tender results in unsuccessful outcomes, it's considered appropriate to release the opportunity on the open market via an appointed commercial real estate agent. To allow Council to enter into a lease via private treaty, Council is required to grant an exception under Section 236 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, which provides that disposal, other than by public tender or auction, may occur if an exception applies. An exception is permitted where it relates to an application where the grant of lease has previously been offered by public tender, but a lease has not been entered into. To maintain momentum and ensure all leasing opportunities for the precinct are fully explored, an exception is being sought to launch an open market campaign for any remaining unsecured lots rather than proceeding with a second tender process. This report is therefore seeking approval from Council to appoint a real estate agency to market the lease lots on the open market, seeking a private treaty agreement, and additionally seeks a decision of Council that an exception to the Local Government Regulation 2012 applies to the disposal of an interest in land by lease, applies over any remaining lots as the lots have been offered to the market by public tender. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillors, can I have a mover for this item? Councillor Broderick. Seconder, Councillor Landsberg. Councillor Broderick.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor. Thank you for the report. I know we've been chatting about this for a while. Just a few questions to start. Could you just give us a really brief overview of what the benefits of leasing are rather than going back through a tender process for the rest of the lots, please?
Through you, Madam Mayor. Going through an open market process is much more typical of how businesses look to secure premises for lease. A tender process is just not the norm in the industry, and so even though best efforts were attempted with marketing it and doing a really public campaign, the result is that we will still need to go through a more traditional leasing campaign for these.
Yeah, Thank you. And do you think we have enough interest to be able to fill these spaces? And have you got enough interest already that you can start this process?
Through you, Madam Mayor. Yes, we think it's going to be quite popular. Once it goes to the open market, we think we'll have a good level of interest. There has been interest outside of that process, but unfortunately, until we obtain a resolution, those negotiations can't commence.
Yeah. And what timeline and process are we looking at? So if it's approved today, what does it look like from here on in?
Through you, Madam Mayor, we would like to continue the design development process. So we have a preferred agent. If we obtain a resolution today, we would look to appoint them and work through that marketing campaign. In parallel to that, the design process is underway, and we expect concepts to be around mid-July. Once we have plans developed to a point where we can actually look to have that form as part of the campaign, that is when we would launch that campaign, and we would continue those negotiations with those other businesses that have been waiting in parallel.
Yeah. And can you tell us about how this...
Excuse me, Councillor Broderick, can you just watch the microphone? You're turning towards Ms Lane.
My apologies. Yeah. I like to look at you when I talk to you, sorry. Just dip in. Could you talk to us about how this fits in with the master plan? So how long has the master plan been in play? What stage of the master plan is this as well?
Through you, Madam Mayor, the master plan was endorsed in November 2022, so it's been there waiting, ready to be implemented. So this forms part of stage 1, which is that expansion and extension of Pathfinder Drive.
Yeah. And how do the additional works fit in with all of this? So we've got all of that air strip running around and access to the airstrip. How does that form as part of the process from here on in? Is that part of the design phase, and from there, how's it funded?
Through you, Madam Mayor, the infrastructure works involves that extension of Pathfinder Drive to provide access to those new lease lots, and also the extension of the taxiway, and then coming around the corner with some additional amenity for the tenants there. The project is proposed to be debt funded. Yep. So once it goes through that design process, then another layer of costings occur, and then we move forward in that regard.
Excellent, thank you. Madam Mayor, I'll speak to this later, thank you.
Okay. Councillor Johnston.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I had a series of questions in relation to this matter, but I wrote to Kim, and I also wrote to the CEO, and I'm satisfied with the responses that I received. I'd like to thank the CEO for putting so much detail into the response, and I'd also like to thank Kim Martins for going to the trouble of ringing me to see whether I was satisfied with all those answers. And, you know, as usual, Kim's doing her job very well. So I'm quite satisfied, and I'll be voting for it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Johnston. Councillor Landsberg.
Thank you. Through the chair. Just obviously a comment that you made that we're going to actually debt fund this precinct in terms of infrastructure improvements. The timing that obviously we're going to go through this process, and Councillor Broderick touched on this, we're going to appoint, the wording is to appoint a real estate agent. Now, is this an experienced real estate agent that actually has experience in terms of, you know, advertising, marketing for these type of commercial activity?
Through you, Madam Mayor. Yes, it is. It's an agency. It's a multinational agency, and the agents that we've been in discussions with have significant experience in the industrial sector and also in aviation property dealings.
And I believe we only went out for the tender process only once. Was there a reason why we didn't actually go out a second time to the market, or did you feel that that first initial proposal that went out just wasn't supported enough by industry?
Through you, Madam Mayor. Unfortunately, going out for leasing matters via tender, historically we have not had the response that you would usually see in comparison with going out with a more traditional leasing campaign. businesses such as this, they're sophisticated businesses, and the negotiations generally happen outside of a tender process. So they're much more tedious when you're looking for premises.
Okay, thank you. I'll just speak to it through the chair. Obviously, I am supportive of this aerospace precinct and the work that we're actually going to do down Pathfinder Drive. As a council, we really have to get this right. It's very strategically placed, the Caloundra Aerodrome, a lot of history behind it, a lot of long-term tenants as well on board there that obviously need to be considered, and we need to continue to work with them. But as part of our REDS program and in regards to a growing community, the Caloundra Aerodrome is actually in a wonderful position for us to leverage off that. And I really look forward to the market. I look forward to opportunities for expansion down there, and especially in aerospace and job opportunity. When you look at the location right next to Caloundra Road, obviously we have the Queensland Air Museum right there. There's some wonderful activations going on there now, and as well as with the announcement of direct rail coming in right next to the aerodrome there, I think there'll be some challenges for us as a council, but we need to move forward. It's actually it's been sitting on the sidelines for too long. This position today will actually be able to see us move forward, and I obviously just look forward to council I know we use debt for significant projects. This will be a significant project, and I'm sure that we'll see a return of investment. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Landsberg. Councillor Natoli.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and I too would like to thank the team for the work that they've done in this space. I know it's not easy, and there's lots of challenges and lots of different moving parts, and I, like Councillor Winston, really appreciated the response that that our CEO provided us the other night when issues were raised directly with us, and of course I really appreciated the conversation I had with Kim Martins yesterday as well. And I support the comments that Councillor Terry just made. It is an important economic driver for us. But I think also as a council, we have an obligation to make sure that as ratepayers who are part of our global body corporate are funding this infrastructure, there has to be an equitable rate of return as well. And we have to be encouraged as a council that when we make budgetary consideration, that user payers and those people who are benefiting make a fair contribution. I did raise, when we were going through the very large increase in the leases of those people who own pontoons at Pereira, in the Pereira Canal, we were virtually paying more than double than what the leases at the Caloundra Aerodrome were. And yet they couldn't lease or sell and not run a commercial business. So, you know, when we talk about that sort of equity and fairness, then I think we need to make sure that whatever we do right, we get it right, but we make sure that we keep investing in this asset, drive that economic return, and that's important that we get a derivative of that in a financial return that is part of our investment, our commitment to keep growing the infrastructure to support those businesses that will benefit from it. So I'll be supporting the recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Natoli. Councillors, if no one else has any other questions or going to speak, Councillor Broderick, would you like to speak now and close?
Thank you. Yeah, just closing. Just thank you to our fellow councillors. Thanks to our planning team for the work that you've done in this. I know it's been a long one. Yeah, so this is a really valuable and important commercial space for our entire region, not just for Division 1 or Caloundra, but right across the coast. And this proposal ensures fair, equitable and competitive leasing rates and agreements right across the industry, And we're giving it to people who understand and know the industry in order to get the best for us. They've been part of these spaces have been part of our Aerospace master plan since 2022, and this is the continuation of us being able to bring that to fruition, with stage 1 in particular. Our aerodrome is a Sunshine Coast asset, and we owe it to our community and ratepayers to ensure best practice and fiscal responsibility. It's not fair on our ratepayers to expect them to subsidise an asset that has opportunity and potential to help grow our Sunshine Coast and to help it thrive. This opportunity offers significant opportunity for our business community, our local employment, while also bringing a significant return on investment for our community and ratepayers we will be giving back. This is their asset and we owe it to them to do the right thing by them. It's an incredible location, an incredible opportunity, and I'll be supporting this today. Thank you to the team for their work.
Thank you, Councillor Broderick. And councillors, I'll now put the motion to the vote. Those in favour? And the motion is carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors, and thank you, Ms Lane, and also Ms Martins, Ms Hevenden, the team. Okay, who are also staying for the next item. So thank you and welcome back. As we move now to item 8.9, the disposal lease for the Pavilion 37, the Esplanade, Headland at Kings Beach. Over to you, thank you.
Through you, Madam Mayor. The purpose of this report is to seek an exception from Council in accordance with Section 236 of the Local Government Regulation 2012 to enter into a new trustee lease with an existing tenant, Metropolitan Caloundra Surf Lifesaving Club, over part of 37 Esplanade Headland in Kings Beach. The land at Lot 202 on Survey Plan 249722 is State Reserve for Park and Recreation under control of Council as trustee. The tenant occupies premises approximately 158 square metres, which consists of 92 square metres of internal space and 66 for outdoor dining. The tenant has operated out of the existing premises on a community trustee lease, which commenced on 1st of January 2015 and expired 31 December 2024. The tenant has continued to occupy the premises under a trustee permit under similar terms to the expired lease, but with a permit fee in alignment with the rent as agreed in Attachment 3, whilst a new term was being negotiated. The premises is referred to as Pavilion Kiosk, as it's located within the Kings Beach Bathing Pavilion, adjacent to the Kings Beach Surf Club and Ocean Pool. The Kings Beach Bathing Pavilion is listed on the Queensland Heritage Register. This report therefore seeks a decision of Council that an exception of Local Government Regulation 2012 applies to the disposal of an interest in land by lease, other than by auction or tender, as Metropolitan Caloundra Surf Lifesaving Club Incorporated is the existing tenant.
Thank you. Councillors, can I have someone move the item? Councillor Landsberg, a seconder, Councillor Burns. Councillor Landsberg.
Thank you, through the Chair. Councillors, this has actually been quite a fair bit of discussions going on, obviously, with the lessees down there at Kings Beach. And as we know, historically, the pavilion and the cafe has delivered a significant revenue raiser for the club as well, and as well as how the club interacts with the pavilion, with the volunteers that work there as well. It's been a wonderful addition to their surf lifesaving uses. But I know that we have to look at our assets, and obviously I know it's challenging times, and from the previous arrangement that they did have down there, this will be a significant increase in terms of what their annual lease charges will be. But I'm confident in the discussions that we've had, and I want to thank the team as well as how we've reached out to the club with several on-site meetings. It is a challenging environment down there at Kings Beach, and we have seen other businesses in that sort of local area there closed due to just whether it's high rental rates, difficult getting staff to work there, accessibility, and even the weather. I mean, we can see, weather down there, 20 knot southerly winds, 25 knot southerly winds blowing for 3 weeks. It's the last place you want to be sitting there, right on the foreshore there, unless you're a clubby or you're committed or you're one of the crusty old, I shouldn't say that, but the mullet, the swimming, the mullet swimming fishermen and all those guys. But look, it's a credit to the guys that go down there. Kings Beach is, it's very much loved between our locals, and as much as, and you'll see me down there regularly as well. But no, look, I'm supportive of this today. I'll speak to it as well, if that's okay, Madam Chair. It will be a good outcome, and obviously looking forward to, there are some other additional external uses that the club are looking forward to working with council, and I hope that those conversations will be supported down the track. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Landsberg. I'm sure there are many crusty locals who will be looking forward to that space and some that are non as well. Thank you. Councillor Johnston.
Yeah, thank you. I rise to support Councillor Landsberg in relation to this proposed lease. It's got an interesting history, this whole area. As a youngster, I mean a child, not the old kid that's here now, but the one that was born in 1952. I used to go down to Kings Beach with my parents quite a bit. And in those days, where we currently have the music bowl and the park, that was actually a caravan park in those days. And where the area, the children's play area, et cetera, and all that is now, that was part of the car park as well. And there was a big car park there. And as I mentioned to the councillors, this bathing shed was where I used to go as a young child. To go to the toilets and also to change and all those sort of things. That's what everybody did. Now, I'm very disappointed that I haven't been heritage listed because of that. However, it's coming, is it? However, there's an interesting fact about the seawater swimming pool that is there. That was originally proposed in the 1960s, and it was to be named after, eventually it was named after Sir Francis Nicklin, who was the member for Landsborough, and Landsborough took in Caloundra and all that area, as well as up to Maleny, etc. Now, when that was first planned, it was going to cost something under £20,000. Yeah, because it was prior to the change to decimal currency. And unfortunately, a couple of the councillors, one of whom represented the Caloundra area, were very anti it being in place there. And I think there might have been some political reasons behind that. So it was really it wasn't until about the 70s that the pool actually got built. And the cost went through the roof compared to what the original proposed cost was. And I'd just like to say that we are very fortunate as a Sunshine Coast community to have that seaside saltwater pool because I think it's the only one on the Sunshine Coast, and when it was first proposed, it was probably the first one in Queensland. So if we were to build it today, imagine what it would cost compared to the foresight of the members of council back in those days. So this is a very important, this lease area is an important facility for the people who use Kings Beach and the swimming pool there. And I wholeheartedly support the motion to grant the lease.
Thank you, Councillor Johnston. You're right, lots of swimmers at the pool there, I know, are very grateful for the facility.
And incidentally...
just a second, Councillor, switch on your microphone. There you go.
One of those mullets that used to swim down at Kings Beach was ex-Mayor Des Dwyer. So, you know, they were very proud, that group of elderly gentlemen who used to go down every morning and swim, no matter what the weather was like. So it's really a great history.
And they use the term fondly, I'll note as well. Absolutely. Okay. If there's no one else to speak on the item, then Councillor Landsberg, would you like to close?
Thank you, through the chair. Yes, I'd quickly just add that it's always wonderful to hear Councillor Johnston's historical knowledge here in the chamber, because it's absolute highlight. And for Kings Beach as well, and during the war years, it was a significant signal station where thousands of, obviously, war personnel took over Kings Beach, and it changed it dramatically. And actually, it was interesting because at the opening of the Hope Dreaming Information Centre that we attended with Councillor Burns and Councillor David, and obviously council staff as well, where we've seen a lot of our residents and our Aboriginal peoples as well moved out of Caloundra because of the activation of Kings Beach and along that foreshore area, and Bribie Island as well. So some great history there. Just look forward to your support here today, and thank you. Thank you for listening.
Thanks, Councillor Landsberg. It's always interesting, that's for sure, and informative. Okay, with that, I will now put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? And the motion is carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors. Thank you, team. Thank you for joining us here today for that very informative item. We move now, there are no notices of motion today, so we'll move on to petitions. And Councillor Landsberg, I believe you have the first petition here this morning. It is still morning.
Thank you, through the chair. I wasn't quite prepared, but so yes, I'd just like to present a petition to our CEO on behalf of Emma Johnson from Save Moffat Beachfront. We have 1,116 signatures, 603 paper signatures and 513 online. And obviously this is around the, we the undersigned, cease any future or discharge from the decommissioned sewage pipe off Moffat Beach Headland, remove the decommissioned sewage pipe and rock groin in its entirety, and initiate an independent investigation.
Thank you. Councillor Landsberg has moved that the petition be received and referred to the CEO, and seconded by Councillor Natoli. Thank you. Councillor Landsberg, did you wish to speak now?
Thank you. Yes, through the chair. Councillors, I know this was raised a couple of months ago in regards to this information at Moffat Beach when it came to light on part of the investigative work that we've actually done for Moffat Beach and the seawall construction works, and looking at opportunities of how, while we've got machinery down the beach there, that we inquired around the headland, the old outfall pipe, and to our surprise, the outfall pipe, the sewage outfall pipe, has never been decommissioned, and we have it as a fact now that they still release undiluted sewage, even though it's untreated sewage, untreated sewage from the pipe, but it's heavily diluted. And to the community at Moffat's and surrounds, this has come at an absolute huge shock. And it's not going to go away, it's going to continue to bubble under the surface. And one of Councillor Johnston's dry dad jokes. But look, I look forward to support of Council and the CEO to continue to see if we can get an acceptable outcome for this matter. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll now put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? And that is carried unanimously, noting we are accepting the petition. That's what the vote is on there. Thank you. That's carried unanimously. Councillor Johnston, I believe you have a petition to table now?
Yes, I have a petition, and the lead petitioner, Mr. Adrian Trell of Centenary Drive, and it reads as follows. I'm writing to formally submit a community petition containing 20 signatures from residents of Centenary Drive and the near surrounding areas, objecting to the current footpath proposed for Centenary Drive. While we fully support the Council's intent to improve pedestrian infrastructure, the current plan raises serious concerns amongst the residents. And it goes on to talk about pedestrian safety, access and practicality, lack of community consultation, physical obstructions, stormwater culvert design, and They ask that council reconsider the current pathway design and adopt a better course for the path. I'll present this and move that it be received, and I'd like to speak to it.
So Councillor Johnston's moved the petition be received and referred to the CEO. Can I have a seconder? Councillor Bunnag. Okay, Councillor Johnston, if you'd like to speak.
Yes, in moving to receive the petition, I'd like the CEO or the officers to respond to the petition lead person, to advise them that thank them for the submission. As a result of that, we have our officers have negotiated a more practical solution, which to have continued the footpath all on the one side of the street would have cost an awful lot of money with extended drainage and retaining walls, removal of power poles, etc. And the what has been agreed with some of the petitioners is a relocation. So I'd like to see a copy sent to them of what is now proposed as a solution, and thank them very much.
Thank you, Councillor Johnston. I will now put the motion to receive and refer the petition to the vote. Those in favour? And that is carried unanimously. Thank you, Councillor Johnston. And councillors, Councillor Law, I believe you have a petition to table.
I do, thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor. I have a petition here with 50 signatures, and the petition reads, "We, the undersigned, respectfully petition Sunshine Coast Council to, number 1, reconsider the CTCU construction due to the increased costs, irreversible environmental damage and lack of evidence for traffic alleviation. Number 2, release the project modelling to the public and for an independent review to be undertaken. And number 3, release the environmental report to the public and for an independent review to be undertaken. And number 4, release the new estimated project cost to the public."
Thank you, Councillor Law. Councillor Law has moved the receipt of this petition. Seconder, please. Councillor Burns. Thank you. Councillor Law, did you wish to speak to the petition?
I don't think there's need to speak to the petition. It was very clear in the statement of the 4 points, and I look forward to seeing the response on behalf of the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Law. Councillors, I'll now put the motion that the petition be received to the vote. Those in favour? It is Councillor Broderick, Burns, Natoli, Bunnag, Suarez, Law and Mayor Natoli. Those against? Councillor Landsberg, Johnston, Dixon and Hungerford. The motion is carried. Thank you, councillors. Councillors, as we have no further items on today's agenda, I invite you to join us for the special meeting for the budget adoption on Monday, 7 July 2025 at 9 a.m. And note that the next ordinary meeting will be held on Thursday, 24 July 2025 at 9 a.m. So I will now declare this meeting closed at 11:49. Thank you very much, and we'll see you again soon.